Obviously, good to be back. It's crazy that we're kind of at this spot. A lot of work goes into putting this group together. Assistant coaches, I think, did an unbelievable job getting a really, really good group of dudes together. So excited to get out there and get going. We've had a really good start, good month of individuals, and now we'll kind of creep up into some team stuff. So excited to get rolling with the boys out here. I think they're ready to go and they're chomping at the bit. So it should be a good start to the fall.
Coach, it seems like we had the same conversation last year in terms of roster changes, new guys moving on. But what do you like about the new pieces of this roster early on?
Yeah, I think we were very intentional with kind of what we did as far as who we got, the type of kid we were looking for. Last year it was new for everybody. It was new for those kids we were stepping into coach. It was new for us as coaches, and I think you go through the SEC and you go through year one and you really figure out, hey, man, we did this really well. We really scuffled here. Here's kind of the dynamic that we need to get to. And so, man, I think these kids have showed up to work every day. I think we really – man, Coach Saban said this on game day the other day. It's like the transfer portal can be dangerous. You don't go get the right guy. You don't get the right makeup. There's a lot of those guys are in there for a reason. You better know the reason when you go in there. And so we were very intentional about the kids we went after, and man, I think we had some really special kids. I think the dynamic is really good. I think the splits, pitcher, position player, a little bit more where we want. I thought we were a little bit heavy position player wise last year, and we kind of wanted to make that adjustment. So we were able to do that. So, man, I think we were able to get a lot of the right guys in here. So, like I said, man, I've loved the makeup. I love their work so far. Now it's time to cut it loose a little bit. Everybody's going to be excited. We'll scrimmage the first day next Tuesday, so we'll be good to get out there and kind of see them in gameplay. But dang, excited to get going today.
Pitching staff, same kind of deal. Additions in the transfer portal that obviously you expect will have a big impact on the team. But not only that, you have Zane Adams returning, Riley Quick coming back from Tommy John. What do you see in that group, both from starting and the bullpen?
Yeah, Q and Banks are obviously two huge pieces to this, and both of them are in a great place right now from the rehab stuff. Both feel awesome. Both have kind of, very honestly, kind of been ahead of schedule. And, I know there'll be some bumps in the road for both of them, but they're in a great place. And I think just the maturity, the makeup, the X factor those two brings huge. And Zane Adams has just continued to take the next step. I remember this time last year we were laughing out on the field. Zane just threw live out there just a second ago. But last year there was a time he rolled out to throw a bullpen with turf shoes on and the wrong jersey on. And so we've actually taken the step to getting him in cleats. So it's amazing how much better that helps. But his maturity, his presence is just he's confident right now. I think coming off a great summer, coming off a great year last year, I think he knows who he is. There's no more feeling it out. He's been outstanding, and I think you're exactly right. We tried to go get some weapons, and I think we're going to have some different looks on the mound this year. It's one thing I'm really excited about. We have low slot righty, low slot lefties. We have power. We have sink. We have everything in between. So. And we got some experience. So I think that's a huge piece as we kind of try to turn this thing into next year.
Hey, Coach, how are you feeling? You're under your belt. Obviously, you sunk your teeth into this thing, but, there's no substitute for experience, and now you've got a lot of that. Where's your mindset right now?
Yeah, I think year two, I remember the same thing in Maryland. Year two, you just kind of know what to expect a little more. I had everybody asking me last year, what do you think of your team? How do you like them? And I loved our team. I loved our kids. But I think if I was truthful, I didn't really know how they stacked up because I hadn't seen it day in and day out in the SEC. And we've walked through it. It was the best the SEC's been in a long time. You had 11 teams get into the postseason, which was a record, and the SEC was as good as it's ever been. And, we had some really good moments, and we had some not as good moments. Obviously the only team in the country to knock off the national championship last year in Tennessee was a great moment. But we talked about this year. We talked about it in a team meeting yesterday, just – this standard and the attention to detail and how we go about our business is how you go from that seventh place team that's a 2-seed in a regional to finishing in the top of the league and getting a chance to play at home. And the odds tell you play at home, you put yourself in a really good position to keep advancing. So I think this group has been mature in that. I think for us as a staff, you're just you know a little bit more what to expect. It doesn't mean it's going to be easy. This league is far from easy, but you know what's in front of you. You know what an elite team looks like. You know what a national championship team looks like. And I said it. I looked yesterday. We had 8 wins in the SEC last year where we won by 5 or more runs. We had 8 losses where we lost by 5 or more runs, and there were 14 that were decided by 3 runs or less. And that's where the season hangs in the balance, is how do you play those games? It's one pitch, it's one play. I mean, I think you can boil it down. There's probably about 5 pitches or plays that determine the outcome of a game. The beauty of baseball is you have no idea if it's going to be in the 5th, the 7th, or the 9th, So just that attention to detail has been a really heavy emphasis of our group this fall, and our guys are responding great to it.
What's your vision for this year, last season, making NCAA tournament for 2 years in a row for this program that hadn't happened in a decade? So a big accomplishment. What are the steps that you want to take beyond that this year?
Yeah, I mean, it's what we told them, man. We didn't move across the country to finish 7th in the league. I don't think Tennessee's sitting in their first team meeting to sit here and saying, like, man, if we can just finish in the top 7, we're going to be in the postseason. Like, we moved here and we moved our family across the country to compete for championships, to do things and to bring a culture and an environment to a place that it has been before. I think I showed our guys that yesterday. This school has been to Omaha 5 times. We've got the 3rd most SEC championships. You have LSU 1, Florida 2, and we're in 3rd. And I think just that realization of it's been done here. Coach Wells built a juggernaut here, and went to Omaha 3 times in the 90s. Like, it can be done here. And so I think that's the big thing for us, is what does that look like? We have to understand that this place is capable of doing that. And then we have to turn our focus to what's the process and the standards and the little things we're going to do to get ourselves there. And so that's what we're trying to help instill. And, it's been a fun group to get to work with so far, because I think they're bought into what we're talking about. I think they're bought into what we're doing. I think they're a really tight-knit group. I think just they spend a lot of time together, and I think that is a really, really important thing in college athletics. So I think that's the big piece, is like, it's to take the next step. We went to a regional. We were 0-3 in the postseason last year. We lost our first game in Hoover and lost 2 games in Tallahassee. Like, that's unacceptable for how we're going to go about our business. And, it's been great. There's been people all over town that have told me what a great year we had last year and how much and it feels good to hear that, and you appreciate that. But this group wants to change that expectation. I talked to another coach in our league yesterday on the phone, and they were in a super regional, and they had their fans and people coming up being like, tough year last year, coach. Like, not saying that's what I want. I would not like our fans to be obtuse to that. But I would love the fact of kind of resetting the expectation. Like, we belong in the postseason. That's not something that we should be shocked by. We need to fight to play at home. We need to fight to host a regional, to get in the top 8 national seeds and get a chance to play in the Joe until Omaha. And if we do that, we got a fighting chance. So just trying to kind of reset that expectation and take that next step.
What do you see from your group offensively? Obviously different from last year. You don't have Gage Miller, you don't have T.J. McCann, Ian Petrutz, Bryce Eblin, guys like that. The new faces fitting in, and how do you see this order shaping out, and what are their strengths?
Yeah, I think it's going to look a little different. I thought our offense last year, and you saw it. I mean, after the food poisoning incident at Mississippi State, we weren't the same offense the last 3 weeks of the year, and understandably a little bit. You don't want to make excuses for kids by any means. I'll never do that. But I just never thought we were the same after that, and last year's team was a very lineup and hit team. I think we had 27 stolen bases all year last year. We brought in Richie Bonamalo from Wabash, who had 63 bags last year. We brought in Bryce Fowler, who had north of 20 bags last year. Ahmad Duff can fly. We brought some more team speed to that. But you also have guys like Brennan Norton and Brady Neal. And then obviously everybody knows Hodo and what he's capable of. Obviously LeBron back. So it's not going to be a shortage of impacting the baseball. But I think this offense has a chance to be a little bit more complete. And I think that's going to be the goal. Like, we want to be able to beat you a lot of different ways. I thought we were a little bit one-dimensional last year. And at times it was fun and at times it worked. But down the line, you better be able to beat some guys some different ways. And I think this offense is going to be capable of doing some different things.
What are you hoping to see from Justin LeBron? Obviously, last year, one of the best freshmen in the country, and I sound like a broken record with this, but he had big shoes to fill at shortstop, and he did a good job of it. What do you expect to see out of him this year?
I think the biggest thing you always wonder is how do guys handle success. He was not that he was unknown coming in. We knew how good Justin is, but me and Justin were laughing last year. We went and looked at his fall stats the other day, and that dude hit 061 in the fall last year. 061, that's awful. And so, there was a little bit of like, I need to prove I belong. I need to prove myself. And so you're always curious coming in is, does success make them think they've figured it out? Because this game's really humbling. And the second you turn that direction, you get humbled very, very quickly. Justin's done about the polar opposite of that. I mean, his work capacity, the way he goes about his business, I think he's actually taken some bigger steps in a leadership type position, to where I think guys look up to him, man, like he's earned that right. So I think it's how he goes about his business every day. You got John Young Jr., you got Sean Graves, you got JoJo Williamson, some of these young freshmen that are going to do what he does. They're going to follow his lead, and he's done a great job of setting the tone of this is how we go about our business here at Alabama. And, time will tell how he continues to navigate everything, but he's come back with about as good of a mentality as I could expect, and even better from a kid that had his type of success last season.
In terms of the transfer group specifically, who sticks out so far? You mentioned you went after a specific type of kid and you like what you got. Who stands out? I know it's early, but at this point, what are some of the names that you have seen the most out of?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the biggest thing probably out of there is Brady Neal, and I think that catching group, man, we only have 3 of them this year. Normally I like to carry 4 on our roster, but those 3, man, have done an unbelievable job. Plattner looks awesome. He has taken some huge steps here this summer. Luke Vaughn looks great. But I think the thing that I love the most about Brady is his versatility. We were out here the other day, and he's catching, then moves out to the outfield and throws a guy out from the wall in the outfield. Like, he has the ability to do some different things, which I think is really cool. He swung the bat great. He's fitting great with the guys. The guy's obsessed with getting better and being coached, and that's been a fun thing to be around. Brennan Norton impacts the ball about as good as any player I've ever seen. I mean, there's ground balls to shortstop that you're going to be jumping out of the way of. I mean, it's serious impact of the baseball. So that's been awesome. Garrett Staten, obviously Stanford kid, serious power in the bat. So on the offensive side, a lot of those transfers have been exactly what you want. You look at Packy on the pitching side, man, that slider is very, very real. I mean, guys hit less than 100 on it, and you see why. When you stand back behind the mound and watch it, you see exactly why. You get a guy in Aiden Finateri that's just thrown 1,000,000 innings in college and is about as tough as I got. The day I called him and offered him, I knew Aiden in high school. The day I called him and offered him, he was working with his dad at a roofing company. He was roofing a house when he picked up the phone. Like, that's my kind of kid, man. Like, he ain't afraid to get out and work. So I think the combination of toughness, the combination of experience, the combination of success, or the combination of just appreciating things, we talk about that a lot, is, man, entitlement does not work here, and I think there's young freshmen that step in that this is all they know, and they think this is just how it is. And then I think you have some transfers that come over from other places in the country that realize how fortunate they are to be at a place like the University of Alabama. You have guys that come from quote-unquote bigger schools that are just looking for something different. Doesn't mean it's good, bad, or indifferent, just different. Maybe a different style of coaching, maybe a different way of connecting. And I think that's one thing that this group and our coaching staff does on a little bit different level. This is not a sink or swim type place. This is a place we want to get in the weeds with you and help you become the best version of who you can be. And I think the proof's in the pudding on how we've done that with guys like McCants and guys that have taken those steps. And so, yeah, I think it's a good mixture in that transfer thing of some experience, some talent, and a heck of a lot of toughness.
As far as Brady goes, obviously Matt Gassetti does not have qualities that are easy to replicate or replace. How has Brady fit in with that position group and meshed with this program and this university so far? It's been awesome, and it starts with his mom and dad. I mean, I flew up when Brady went in the transfer portal. I flew up to the Cape and sat down with him, and I left dinner. Him and I sat at dinner up in the Cape, and I left and called Mo and was like, I don't care what we do, we have to get this kid. And at the time, that's what
80 schools around the country were saying, but we were able to get it done. His mom and dad are great people. His mom and dad have known Jason Jackson for a long time, and very frankly, JJ's a really big reason Brady's here. Alabama recruited him really hard out of high school, and it kind of boiled down to, at the end of the day, it boiled down to Alabama, LSU, and he went to LSU, and now he's here with us, and he's fitting great. You're always interested, like you have Luke Vaughn, who's a budding superstar. You've got a guy like Plattner, like, man, how is that going to mesh when you bring in a guy like that? Is it going to work? And, man, those guys have been as unbelievable as you can imagine. Those three push each other every day. There are three goons out there led by King Goon and Coach Morrison, like out there at practice, but it's fitting great. And all three of those guys are going to be heavily involved. Replacing a guy like Matt Gassetti is hard. What that guy brought to the table is special. And I've coached a long time, haven't coached too many catchers that do what he can do. But man, I think between that catching room is about as good as I've been around collectively. So I'm excited they fit in and they've worked really well together.
Last thing for me, you got an official prediction for the game tomorrow?
Oh man, I didn't know this was coming. Man, it's going to be interesting. It's really cool to see. Like I said this several times. I think my favorite thing about Coach DeBoer and the way he's gone about it, and really even Greg Byrne at the top, is I think if you go hire Nick Saban 2.0, that doesn't work. I just don't think it does. There's one Coach Saban. That's it. Like Kirby Smart's a great coach, but there's one Coach Saban. And I think the beauty of what I've seen over there is I've seen the same standards, the same pursuit of excellence, the same pursuit of doing things at an elite level, but seeing a guy extremely comfortable in his own skin to go out and do it. And I texted him the other day about some things, Coach DeBoer, and he got back to me 2 minutes later, and we texted back and forth. But I just told him as a young coach how much I appreciate seeing him be confident in who he is and not trying to be somebody else. And when you do that, man, it becomes dangerous. So, I think they've got a heck of a group, man. It's been really fun to watch. And I think when you get Jalen Milroe throwing to Ryan Williams, man, that's a heck of a lot of fun. So yeah, I mean, Tiger on top for sure. That's what I said. I was talking to somebody the other day. I said, man, it's either going to be, is it going to be blowout Georgia, tight Tide, or blowout Tide? And I think we're going to have a game going into the fourth quarter, and Milroe and Williams are going to connect late and win this thing at the end.
Thank you, Coach.
Yep, roll Tide.